have here is two drum kits. They're exactly the same, right? So that's all it is. I'm just going to play a kick drum and the hand clap. So that's that one there. And that's the other one. That's just a copy of that one, but I've made them a different colour so you can identify. Now, both of them are hitting minus 0.65, right? You see that? Minus 0.65 on both of them. So we don't have a lot of room to go if we need that louder. If we had like bass lines and synths, we'd obviously start putting compression and EQ and all sorts of things, limiting maybe to make it louder. But that's not what we're trying to do here, really. Or we kind of are, as you'll see in a minute. So, how do we make this louder, but without changing the sound? If we put a compressor on here, it's going to change the character. We might get a bit more volume, but we could get a bit of squashing as well. Limiting, you could get a couple of dB, maybe 3 before you're really sort of starting to change the sound a bit. And you know, I will do that depending on what I'm working on. But I think there's a little secret out there that quite a few people don't really know about. And it's clippers. No, not the thing that the hairdresser's got, but that's the name of it, clipping. So if I play this file, you see the light green area here on the VU meter. All of the energy of this kick drum and clap it's all here, up to just above minus, well, just hitting minus 12. But the peak is hitting minus 0.65. So there's a lot of information there that's really just the peaks, right? The sort of transient of the kick drum and the clap. And I suspect it'll be the kick drum that will be the loudest part. What we want to do is make this louder, but without changing the character. And there's a lot of clippers out there. I just happen to, I've got a few of them, but this is my favourite one. It's called Standard Clip. And I think some mastering engineers use it. In fact, I know for certain they do. Because basically you can put this thing after your limiters just to get an extra dB without any nasties, basically. I mean, I think a mastering engineer, they wouldn't go any more than 2 dB with this thing. But for our purposes, we're not mastering. We're tracking, so to speak, right? But so we'll be pushing it a lot harder than that. I'm going to switch the oversampling to, I'm going to be luxurious and use times 16, right? So it's on this channel here. And if we look here, the peak, minus 0.65. Well done, Ableton. I still call them Ableton. Right. And as you can see here, you get this little VU meter. Well, it's not a VU, waveform display. And what this is, that's the peaks. So if you think about any processors, like a compressor, when you whack that on there, this top bit here, this kind of not a lot of audio information is what it's going to react to, right? So what you would end up doing, you would end up like really pushing the compressor to start affecting this stuff down here, or like below that kind of thin line peak, right? And this is why sometimes compression doesn't sound that great on your drum tracks or whatever, anything really. So what I'm going to try and do is reduce these peaks without changing the character of the drums too much. They will change a little bit. I mean, that's going to be unavoidable, but have a listen, see what you think. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring this clip fader down, and this is going to start bringing the the sort of peak volume down as well. So let's start bringing this down. In fact, let's just go full whack, and that's like mega change, right? So we don't want it that heavy. That's obviously way too much, although that's an effect in itself. You can hear that on particularly the older dance stuff. So I'm going to be a bit more subtle, and I'll just keep going down. And that red peaks, you see it coming in? Just even there. How far was that? I can barely see because I don't have my glasses on. Is that -6? Yeah. Well prepared, right? Pro setup, you know? Let's go a bit slower. So at -1.6, we're just shaving off a tiny little bit. You see that little red area there? Tiny little bit. But I want it sort of to come down. I want these peaks gone. Not gone, but I want to be squashing them a little bit to let the other stuff through. So I'm going to keep coming down. I'm still not hearing an obvious change to the sound. Beginning to hear it now, but still not bad. Perfectly acceptable in my world, particularly on a drum track. Right, I think that's fine. So it's 6 dB of clipping, right? So now, if I put a compressor after that, it's not going to be reacting to the red areas, it's going to be reacting to this white, the white peak there, right? Now I could bring this down so that the peak is on the hand clap, but that would be I'd be changing the character of the drums at that point. In fact, we'll just do that just to check it out. Yeah. So at basically -10 dB, that's where it starts hitting there. That's it bypassed. And you can hear a little bit of distortion, but when you think about it, it's not that bad, right? But I'll put this back to -6. Right, so we've got this standard clip, the clipper, on this channel, and now we'll compare the two. This one doesn't have the clip on it, right? This is the clipped one, the unclipped one. Now, some of you are maybe thinking, well, so what, big deal? What you doing, man? Well, what I've done, now if we look at the level, this one, instead of -0.62, it's at -5.67. But it still sounds the same volume as that one, right? You see where I'm coming from? So what we've actually done, we've gained 5 dB, or thereabouts, of volume. That's what we've done. We've gained 5 dB of volume. And that can be very handy when you're mixing and doing your thing. Right? So now, let's make this, put this up to 0.62. So I'll need the little utility. I can do it here. I can do it in here. I can do it automatically in there, but I'm just going to put the utility, the Ableton utility plugin in, and I'm going to increase the gain. I'll try and get it to 0.62. Oh, that'll do. Right, so 5 dB, right? So it's pretty close. Not minus 0.67 is the new peak for this one. Now we'll just compare them again. Oh, it's much quieter. Interesting, huh? The clipped one at the same volume as the other one. Now, if you look closely, you'll see the energy is kind of expanded a bit, right? We've still got that clip there, the sort of peak, right? The light green area, but it's not as much as this one. You see the energy is all here, it's all down there. And this energy goes right up to there. We could even get it more if we want. There's various things you could do. You could then put a limiter on this. You could compression. You could start putting your EQ on. Generally, though, you would want this last in the chain if possible. But very handy if you've got something very dynamic, but you want to try and keep that sense of dynamics in there. This is, by the way, this is what's great about this clipping plugin. All of them do this, right? They do it in different variations of this, but that's what's great about it. It maintains the kind of the illusion, I would have to say, that the dynamics are all completely preserved, as well as the attacks on the sounds. And I think they're great, actually. And you could use this in a bass line, whatever you want. And if you start using this on individual tracks during your writing, mixing process, and you're saving a few dB here and there, it means at the end of the track, at the mastering stage, you don't have to hit that limiter so much. I do not like limiters, but they're a necessary evil in these days, you know. We don't need them. We don't need loud limited mixes. We never needed them, but that's where we are, and I'm not going to be able to change that on my own. But remember, what we did here, we managed to save 5 dB, and you can even hear the difference in volume. In terms of the music world, that's quite big. And I could even get a bit more out of this if I, in fact, I'll shift that to Soft Clip Pro. Right, it's a good bit louder now. And I haven't even put any saturation in. And then perfectly acceptable for a wee electronic dance number there. And it's increased the overall volume, but we're still in that same ballpark, the minus 0.65. And the difference is quite huge. So this plugin can be very handy. I'm not trying to encourage people to go massive loud. The point was that before I discovered clippers, I would often struggle at the end of a track when I was mastering. I really hated putting limiters on because it was like, man, that's just completely destroyed it, you know. That's because a lot of the stuff that I was actually mixing was very low volume, and everything was very just kind of peaky, like this one, you know. Oh, we can't see it now, but well, if I put a standard clip on it, which I will just do. Where are you? Standard clip. Yeah. So you can see I was doing all sorts of mixing. Every element of my sound was very much like that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. All I'm pointing out is that when it came to the mastering stage, I was slamming these limiters way too hard to try and get the volume. So in a roundabout way, this is kind of not to the extremes I was doing it there. You wouldn't want to do that for everything. But with something like this, you can save a couple of dB, 2-3 dB on pretty much anything without any nasty effects, you know. And while still maintaining dynamics, the transients are all still there. So very good, and plug in that one. But like I say, I'm not endorsed by this SIR company. I bought it. I buy all my plugins. But it's very good, and I use this thing a lot now. I like the saturator as well. And yeah, you could always have a look at that, and it's a good alternative when you think you need more volume. You know, you might be reaching for the compressor, you might be reaching for a limiter on individual tracks. I'm talking about. You maybe don't need to do that, you know, or you could use a combination of both. You know, put this in before the compressor because this will like really kind of control the peaks before it goes into the compressor to make, and thus your compressor will work even smoother. Because like that, it's going to have a hard time, right? It's not going to have a hard time, but it's not going to be as good as if it was fairly, you know, the peaks weren't so high. Anyway, that was just a little Mootant tip, and I think this type of thing is used by a lot of people. They're not saying it. Or maybe no one's doing it, I don't know. But I'm certainly doing it now. But I don't, like I say, I don't want to encourage mega loudness, because obviously you can use this after a limiter as well and get another couple of dB. Don't do it unless you use the limiter very, you know, just your limiter was only increasing the volume 2 or 3 dB at the most, you know, and to keep the integrity of the transients, you know, any more than that and you do start losing transients and all that. Dynamics, and this can help. You can get another couple of dB from this, and basically you can still have a very dynamic mix without the big squashed kind of sound, you know. So that was all. It was just a little tip, and I'll maybe do another one with this, maybe comparing a few other ones. There's also saturation. I will be doing a video on that. Saturation can give you the same effect, but it absolutely will change the sound, but it will increase the volume. But the point is, with saturation plugins, you're supposed to want to like the sound. You're going to like the sound. Not every saturation plugin. I think one of the best ones is actually Softtube's free one. They do a free one. It's one of the best ones out there, in my opinion anyway. All right, thanks for watching.